rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world, and then shall the end come.
Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
Welcome to today's edition of End of the Age. I'm Jim Stiggleman in studio here. Irvin Baxter is on the road, and he'll be joining us right now via the phone lines. He is on his way to Kansas City, Missouri. Hello, Irvin.
I actually have arrived in Kansas City, Missouri, Jim. Thank you very much. Cool. And, wow, what breaking news over the weekend. It's hard to know where to start. We will be broadcasting remotely all this week. It's going to be an exciting week. However, today, some big stories are breaking. All of you probably know that President Trump met with Prime Minister Netanyahu last week. He met with Mahmoud Abbas last week. He met with al-Sisi, the president of Egypt, last week. He met with the King of Jordan, King Abdullah, last week. He's been talking to all the Middle East people. Now, here's what they're telling us. Senior Palestinian officials said that in the wake of the meeting on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York, the Palestinian leadership expects the White House, hear this, to put forth a proposal or a position paper on the renewal of negotiations within a few weeks. Within a few weeks. Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas told President Trump last Wednesday that a Palestinian-Israeli peace deal can be reached yet this year. Now, this is the end of September. We're talking about October, November, December. Adding, it could be the deal of the century. Now, that makes my hair stand on end. And if it doesn't yours, it's because you don't understand the prophecy. The prophecy simply says that when the Palestinian-Israeli peace agreement is signed, that marks the beginning of the final 7 years to the second coming of Jesus to this earth and to the Battle of Armageddon. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know that there were a lot of teachers out there saying that the Lord was going to come Saturday, September the 23rd. That's not what this is. That's not based on the Bible. There was no Bible to back that up, even though they tried to take a few scriptures and make them fit. We're talking about a prophecy that will not fail. When this happens, it'll mark the beginning of the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon. If you've been a long-time listener of this program, you understand the significance of what I'm telling you. They're talking about the renewal of negotiations within a few weeks and a deal, a peace deal between Palestinians and Israelis could be reached yet this year. Now, you do understand it has not been reached yet. Consequently, there's nothing in the bag until the deal is in the bag. Nevertheless, it's so critical for us to understand we are in rarefied territory right now, prophetically speaking. I'm talking about if this happens, or when it happens, it's going to happen because the Bible prophesies it, but when it happens, it will be the greatest prophetic fulfillment in the last 2,000 years. It will be the greatest fulfillment since the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead. That's how big this thing is. And Mahmoud Abbas says he believes it could happen yet this year. So I want to ask everybody listening today, are you ready for the final 7 years to begin within a few weeks or a few months? Once again, I am not saying that it will happen within a few months. They've been trying to get this peace deal for years. However, Trump says he never has believed, or he's never seen a time when it's possible to get the deal as likely as it is to get it right now. We're going to go through some of the wording because I want you to hear in their words what they're saying. So it's so critical, it's so important for us to realize what in fact is truly going on. Like Jim told you, I am on the road. Jim is anchoring the program back at our headquarters. It's going to be a great week. I want to take you, first of all, to an article. This article is entitled, Netanyahu Tells Cabinet Ministers Trump Prepping Peace Plan, Determined to Make Progress. Now, this was published just today. This is from Haaretz newspaper in Israel. Here's what they had to say. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told the weekly Security Cabinet meeting on Sunday that U.S. President Donald Trump is working on a peace plan aimed at an Israeli-Palestinian peace agreement. Now, let's pause there just a moment. It says Trump is working on the plan. For the first 8 months of his presidency, Trump has not put forth any plan, nor have his representatives. But now then, Mahmoud Abbas said, okay, you listened to us. I visited with you and your representatives 20 times during the first 7 months. You know where we're coming from. You know all the issues. You know where the stumbling blocks are. You've listened to the Israelis. Now we think it's time for you to bridge the gap. And here we have this news today from Haaretz newspaper in Jerusalem that Benjamin Netanyahu told his cabinet, his innermost cabinet, his security cabinet, on Sunday, that's yesterday, that U.S. President Donald Trump is working on a peace plan aimed at an Israeli-Palestinian peace agreement. Netanyahu noted that his meeting with Trump impressed that the U.S. president is quite determined to advance his plan. Trump's envoy to the peace process, Jason Greenblatt, who, by the way, has been Trump's personal attorney for 20 years. We're not talking about a newbie here. We're talking about someone that has worked side by side with President Trump for the last 20 years. He knows his mind. He knows how he thinks. He has been the main person doing the heavy lifting for the last 8 months in this relationship between the Palestinians, the Israelis, and the United States of America. So his personal representative, Jason Greenblatt, will arrive in Israel today to continue talks with both sides. During the cabinet meeting, Netanyahu briefed his ministers on his recent trips to Latin America and the UN General Assembly, giving particular regard to his meeting with Trump and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. Now, you must know that this is the first time that he has publicly met with the head of Egypt, al-Sisi, since al-Sisi took office. First time. Now, they've met secretly a couple of times back 3 or 4 years ago, but right now this is his first time to come out of the closet and say, yes, Egypt is talking to Israel, Israel's talking to Egypt. Furthermore, the article goes on to say there's no doubt that the Palestinian topic is a heavy and important matter for Trump. Netanyahu said at the cabinet meeting, according to ministers present, Trump conveyed his seriousness about this. The Americans are preparing a plan, and I presented our positions to the president. Trump is very determined and wants to reach the ultimate deal. That's what Trump likes to call it. He wrote the book, The Art of the Deal. Well, now then, he said a peace agreement between Palestinians and the Israelis would be the ultimate deal. And yes, I would like to try to reach it. So that's what he's attempting to do. I think he's asked for a few weeks to prepare this final proposal. Once the U.S. lays it on the line, it's going to be very difficult for the Palestinians to refuse it or for Israel to refuse it, because we are Israel's closest ally. They cannot live without us. At least they believe that. And furthermore, we fund a good part of the Palestinian budget. So once Trump lays on the line, now I promise you, once he gets this formulated, he's going to have back-channel talks with both sides, because he doesn't want to put out a plan that's then going to be rejected. So anyway, that's where we are today, Monday, September the 25th, in 2017. A senior White House official said that Greenblatt would arrive in Israel on Monday and hold talks with senior Israeli and Palestinian officials in Jerusalem and Ramallah following Trump's meetings with Netanyahu and the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in New York. So this is a follow-up. This is where all the details are filled in. This is Trump's personal lawyer for the last 20 years, and he's on the front lines of this Middle East peace offensive. Now, while President Trump had productive meetings with Prime Minister Netanyahu and President Abbas at the United Nations, Jason Greenblatt is headed back to Israel to continue the peace track, to flesh it out, to deal with all of the bumps in the road, the possible potholes that could derail this whole plan. The article goes on to say he will have follow-up meetings that are part of the administration's quiet, steady discussions toward peace. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when President Trump was running for office, he was yet candidate Trump. He made the statement that that would be the ultimate deal, and he didn't know whether he could do it or not, but he would certainly like to try. Well, there's been a lot going on for the last 7 months. Between Greenblatt and Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law, they have been back and forth and back and forth. Like I mentioned earlier, they have met with Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the Palestinians, 20 times in the first 7 months. Now, divide that up, 7 into 20. That averages 3 times per month. That is a lot of communication. They've been talking. They've been looking at what the obstacles are, the possible solutions to those things, back and forth, back and forth. Okay. Trump told Abbas during their meeting at the United Nations last week, he told Abbas that the White House was working on a new U.S. peace initiative but needed more time to formulate it, and then went on to say, give us a few weeks. Okay, the excitement of this almost takes my breath away. And I've been telling you for a few weeks that I thought this was coming. Well, now they're becoming more open about it. And that's the reason that I've been telling all of you that End Time is gearing up to get ready for the final sprint, the 7-year sprint to the finish line. That's what we're doing right now. And let me just tell all of you out there that we believe that we're going to be absolutely inundated with phone calls as we move forward, especially when this final 7 years begin. I believe that we're going to be absolutely swamped. And that's the reason we made the decision we had to get new software in place that would allow us to handle millions and millions of phone calls. So we've moved forward with this. It is a $200,000 project, and I know it sounds like a lot of money. It's a lot of money to me. Nevertheless, I ask all of our partners to help us, and the last report I received, I haven't got a new report today, but the last report I received, we're sitting at $125,000, so we're over halfway there, but we're still $75,000 short, which means if 150 different people would give $500, it would be done. Now, I believe that there are many of God's people out there that you would be able to do that if you really understood the critical need. I hope the first part of this program makes you realize this is not just another project. We are gearing up the end time. And the Bible teaches that we're going to have the greatest revival the world has ever known. But revival goes out if you're not able to throw more logs on the fire. The revival fire will go out. And I believe that God has called End Time Ministries. As far as I know, we're one of the few, if not the only ministry out there beating this drum, that when they sign this peace agreement, the final 7 years will begin. So consequently, if you're out there and God's blessed you, maybe you want to do more than that. We had one person donate $25,000. And if you're out there and could do something like that, then it would expedite us in this project. So anyway, whatever you can do, pray about it, ask God, and pick up the phone and call us. 800-END-TIME is the number to call. Or you can go to our website, endtime.com, click on the donate button. Let's get over the top this week, because I'm telling you that they're scaring me. This thing is coming at us so fast now. I'm saying, Lord, are we going to we not only have to get this software purchased, we have to get it implemented. It's going to take us 5 or 6 months. And so we can't wait. And if they get this thing done yet this year, I'm frankly a little bit frightened that we won't be ready for the big revival blitz that God has planned. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. And let me tell you, our partners have never let us down. I don't have one bit of doubt that you won't help us this time, and I thank you in advance for it. So if you're out there, I ask you to pray about it, ask the Lord to speak to your heart, and I know that you will. So thank you so much. We've got the greatest partners in the whole wide world, and I appreciate every single one of you so much. Okay, now, before we go further, I want to bring another article to you. This comes from ynetnews.com. This was on the 20th, and the article simply says, a boss tells Trump peace deal can be reached this year. Now, some of this will be repetitive of what I told you already, but the other article was heard from Netanyahu. Now we're going to hear from Mahmoud Abbas. Here's what he said. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas told U.S. President Donald Trump Wednesday a peace deal between Israel and the Palestinians can be reached this year, adding it could be the deal of the century. Continuing on, Abbas said his meeting with Trump on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly meeting in New York attested to the U.S. president's seriousness about reaching a Middle East peace deal soon. If this is any proof to anything, it attests to the seriousness of your excellency, Mr. President, to achieve the deal of the century in the Middle East during this year or in the coming months, God willing, Abbas said through an interpreter. Trump, meanwhile, pledged to devote everything within his heart and soul to bringing peace to the Middle East. We're looking seriously at peace and maybe ultimately peace in the whole of the Middle East, not just between the Palestinians and Israelis. I think we have a pretty good shot, maybe the best shot ever. And that's what we're looking to do, he said, looking ahead of his meeting with Mahmoud Abbas. It's a complex subject, the American president admitted, always been considered the toughest deal of all. But I think we have a very, very good chance, and I certainly will devote everything within my heart and within my soul to get that deal done. Trump said his team of advisors was working very hard on the issue, as were Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the other nations of the Middle East. So I think you can tell by these articles that are coming from Benjamin Netanyahu, also coming from Mahmoud Abbas. These are the two principals involved in this whole thing. But they're not the only ones, because now then, President Trump, he went to Saudi Arabia a couple of months ago, and they brought 50 Arab leaders together. He challenged them. He said, you have the power to stop international terrorism, and it's time that you do it. He rallied them together. They all received him with open arms. Then his personal envoy, Jason Greenblatt, was invited to go to the Arab Summit, the first time a high-level American has ever been invited to the Arab Summit, and Jason Greenblatt went. It was held in Jordan. It was held over on the east side of the Dead Sea at an undisclosed location, but it was held there, and Jason Greenblatt was there for the entire time. He was meeting with the significant Arab leaders, and that's the reason all this is moving so fast, because now Saudi Arabia is supporting, Jordan is supporting, Egypt is supporting, the Palestinians are supporting, Israel is supporting. It just looks like the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, all of them are getting on board because President Trump realizes that if the Palestinians have to do it by themselves, they may not have the courage to act alone. But if they've got all of this Arab Muslim support, then that will give them political cover to do this deal. Now, I want to say once again, just to make sure this is not just so much hype, I want to say to all of you, this is coming. The Bible prophesies there will be a peace agreement. Now, you may be thinking, well, they've had talks a lot of times before. How will we know this is the peace agreement that the Bible says will mark the beginning of the final 7 years? Here's how we'll know. It will do several things. One, it will create a Palestinian state in the West Bank. The West Bank is the area the Bible calls Judea. So that's the first thing that's going to happen. There is going to be a Palestinian state created. It's called the two-state solution. There's a problem. There's a bunch of Jews living out there now, 850,000 to be exact. So they're living out there. What are you going to do with them? Well, they've already discussed it. Both Netanyahu and Mahmoud Abbas has agreed. There's 1.6 million Arabs living in Israel. Why couldn't there be 400,000 or 500,000 Jews living in the new Palestinian state? So they've already settled that they would be able to live there. Now, the other big issue they've got to deal with is the Temple Mount. If you follow the news at all, you know there's been huge tensions over the Temple Mount over the last 2 or 3 months. Right now, the Muslims alone are able to worship there, but the Jews are determined to build their third temple there. They've only had 2 temples in their entire history. The first one was built in 968 B.C. by Solomon. It stood for 400 years. It was destroyed by the Romans in 586 B.C. Then the second temple was built by Zerubbabel. It was completed in 516 B.C. It was made larger, much more beautiful by King Herod under the Roman domination. And then that's the temple that Jesus stood and taught in. That's the temple that stood during the time of the apostles. It was destroyed by the Romans in 70 A.D. There's not been a Jewish temple since 70 A.D. But now that the Jews, after 2,000 years of exile, that they have been brought back to their homeland, they want to build their temple. And a record number of Jews visited the Temple Mount in the last 12 months. The last holiday they had, Tisha B'Av, 1,200 Jews in one day. There were hundreds of years when almost 0 Jews went up. Now all of a sudden, day after day, week after week, month after month, the Jews are going there. They are yearning to build their third temple. And there's already a law that's been introduced into the Israeli Knesset to put the Temple Mount under a sharing arrangement so that the Muslims can continue to worship there, and yet an area would be allotted to the Jews so they too could worship there. And they are determined to build their temple. They've already got all of the utensils. They have the brazen altar where the sacrifices are made. They have the laver where the priests are to wash. They have the candelabra overlaid with gold where the oil and the fire meet together. They have the table of shewbread. They have the altar of incense. And yes, they even now have the Ark of the Covenant. I'm not telling you something I think. I've seen all of this with my eyes. I saw the Ark of the Covenant myself that they have recently built. Matter of fact, I've now seen it several times. Our groups, when we go to Israel, we go through the Temple Institute, and every single thing I'm telling you right now, you will see with your own eyes. This is not hype. This is absolute fact. As a matter of fact, if you want to go with me to Israel, we have a few places left on our next tour. October the 31st, we leave. It's a 12-day tour, and you will go through the Temple Institute. You will see everything that I just now described to you. You will see all the utensils. They are ready to go. They have the priest garments ready. They have the high priest garments ready. They are ready to build the temple. The only thing they need is a political solution. You're going to stand on this trip right where the new temple is going to be built. Yes, it will make your hair stand down on end. Furthermore, you're going to stand on the Mount of Olives where Jesus is going to touch down when he comes back. And all of us who are born again will have been caught up to meet him in the air, and we will go with him to the Mount of Olives. You're going to stand there. You'll stand there. You're leaving here on October the 31st. So the first week in November, you and I will stand on the Mount of Olives, right where all of us are going to touch down at the time of the second coming of Jesus. Wow, what an incredible days we live in. So that's what's going on. I'm reminded of the words of King George, the King of England, on July the 4th of 1776. Someone checked his diary, and of course they didn't have internet that day. They did not have international news that day. He wrote in his diary, nothing happened today. Well, the only thing that did happen was our forefathers declared the Declaration of Independence and gave birth to the greatest nation that's ever been on the face of the earth. And yet King George thought nothing happened. Well, let me tell you, there's a whole lot happening right now, so don't miss it. Well, I've been rattling on rapidly because the things that are happening right now are just so absolutely extraordinary. Let me give you another paragraph or two before we run out of time. And then in the second half of our program, if you're able to stay with us for that, I will be taking your calls, answering your questions, but just a couple more things. In an interview with the London-based daily Al-Quds Al-Arabi news source before his meeting with the U.S. President, Abbas confirmed that during Kushner's visit to the region in August, aides to Trump had requested a 1-month timeout to draw up proposals for renewing the negotiations, and that he had agreed. He agreed not to pull the trigger on any new declarations, not to launch a new effort to become a member of the United Nations, but to leave things as they are in order to give President Trump and his associates time to put a deal together. Aides to Abbas have barely mentioned the content of the Palestinian leaders' conversation with the U.S. President. The Palestinian envoy to the United States, Hussam Zamlat, told Haaretz that Abbas clarified to Trump the Palestinian position, including the path to an agreement leading to the establishment of a sovereign Palestinian state along the 1967 borders. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is what has been happening just last week. If you're out there and you're not yet a partner with End Time Ministries, it's time to get on board. We have a world to reach, and the clock is ticking faster every day. So if you're not yet a partner with End Time, we'd love to have you on board. You'll start receiving my letter that I write to our partners every single month, telling them the latest breaking news and also telling all of our partners exactly what's going on at End Time Ministries. We want you to be a part of End Time Ministries. We need you. This is the time to jump on board. And so please stay with us the second half if you possibly can. In the meantime, you've been listening to End of the Age.
Move Mountains with Irvin Baxter, the new book by Irvin's grandson, provides 30 days of devotion that will enhance your connection to God and others. Authentic illustrations from early morning devotions at End Time will help you identify areas in your life where you can be more intentional and ultimately discover your purpose. Commit to taking this 30-day journey and experience real life change. Pre-order for only $25.99 at endtime.com/move and get free bonus items worth over $100. Go to endtime.com/move today.
Have you signed up for your trip of a lifetime? Prophecy will come to life as you walk through Israel with Irvin Baxter. Space is limited. Our extended deadline to sign up is October 5th. Call 1-800-END-TIME, that's 1-800-363-8463, or go to endtime.com to experience Israel as never before. Don't miss this amazing tour. Our deadline is quickly approaching. Sign up today.
You can now become a magazine subscriber for life. You will receive first-class benefits that will include a lifetime membership to End Time Magazine, as well as an unlimited access to the digital version of the magazine. You will also receive 20% off of all future orders at endtime.com. Join today by calling 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463, or go to endtime.com.
If your station only carries the first 30 minutes of End of the Age, go to endtime.com and click the watch button to continue today's broadcast. You can also finish up later by clicking the archives button. Welcome back to End of the Age. I'm Jim Stiggleman in Plano, Texas. Irvin Baxter is joining us via the phone lines today. He is calling us from Kansas City, Missouri, where we'll be live and on a remote for the rest of the week. Hello, Irvin.
Hello, Jim. Well, we have such an exciting subject today because events are breaking faster right now in the Middle East than I ever remember them breaking. Oh, by the way, Jim, I had my internet off inadvertently, and so Holly needs to give me another call so I can connect up and see our callers. If she would be so kind as to do that, I would appreciate that. And we are taking all of your calls out there today. The number to call is 877-END-TIME. That's 877-363-8463. I see that Apparently some of you are already starting to call. So if you want to get in on this exciting program and understand what's really going to happen. Now, I know we have a lot of new listeners. We've gone on a great new station here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And a lot of new listeners are jumping on board because it's stronger than the other station we had before. And so if you're out there and you're a new person and you don't really know what I'm talking about, do not hesitate to call if you have questions. Just call 877-END-TIME and tell our call screener what you want to ask, and I'll be glad to talk to you. Now, if you'd like to become a partner, or if you would like to make a donation to our urgent software need, that number is 800-END-TIME. But to reach me, 877-END-TIME. Such exhilarating, amazing things. Now, believe it or not, this is not the only story, but because it is so important, I just felt like that we ought to really give it front page billing today, just to give you something we may talk about later on in the week. An article appeared in Arutz Sheva, which is Israel National News, a man writing by the name of Ken Abramovitz, and he says, we are basically in World War III. Let me just give you a sneak preview of it while all of you are out there dialing if you want to get in on the program. But Abramowitz is the co-founder of NGN Capital and a founder of a blog about the threats facing the West called SaveTheWest.com. Mr. Trump is the clearest it's been in a long time, Abramowitz said, noting that the U.S. president could still be a little more clear. Now, he's referring specifically to his speech at the United Nations, a very bold, forthright speech. Abramovich went on to say, in the Middle East, we are fighting 4 terror organizations, he explained. People think we're fighting 2, ISIS and Al-Qaeda. They also know we're fighting Iran, which is the #1 terror organization today. But we're also fighting the Muslim Brotherhood, financed by Turkey and Qatar, who are half friends, half enemies. And we're also fighting the Wahhabis, financed by Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, who are half friends, half enemies. Trump is the best we can do, but he still does not have quite the clear enough picture to realize we're fighting 4 terror organizations at the same time. Now, let me say to all of you that Abramovich says war is inevitable. And here's why. He says that Iran and also ISIS are terrorist organizations, plus North Korea. They're all terrorist nations, and you cannot negotiate with terrorist nations. The only thing you can do is defeat them militarily. He thinks we're already in World War III right now. Now, what significance does that have to all of us who study the prophecies of the Bible? Well, the Bible prophesies that just ahead of us is going to be World War III, and it will be the world's greatest war ever. So those are some of the other things that are breaking in the news with all of this, with the Middle East peace agreement and its potential. All these other things are in addition to that. So everything is moving. If you think the Lord has delayed his coming, he hasn't. He's going to come the very day, the very hour that he has preordained. He is not putting off his coming. The reason he hasn't come is because it hasn't been time yet. That's the only reason he hasn't come. And the day when he's supposed to come, it's going to happen. Fortunately, we have the prophecies of the Bible that tell us what is going to happen now, in the near future, and before his coming, and also what we should be doing about it. By the way, if anybody really wants to understand, we have a new series out called From Here to Armageddon. And I lay out in this series, it's 8 lessons. I lay out what's going to happen step by step and what order it's going to happen in. And then also we lay out what we should all be doing about it. I'll tell you what let's do, Jim. Let's get now to, let's go to Facebook first of all. Debbie is calling from Facebook, and she wants to know, what are the 7 spirits of God in Revelation chapter number 4, verse number 5? And I'm going to my Bible right now because I want to be able to read a scripture to you. And I'm not positive that this is the answer, but in the Bible, it does talk about the seven spirits of God. And I believe this is Isaiah chapter number 61. I'm talking to you, and I'm going there as I speak to you, and I'll confirm in just a moment where it is, because I know some of you may want to follow along. But in the book of Isaiah, and give me just a moment to navigate here while I'm still talking to all of you, and I believe it's Isaiah 61, verse 1. Let me see if I have it here. And I may be mistaken. Jim, you may have to help me out if you know. Anyway, let me give you the synopsis of it. It talks about the Spirit of the Lord will be placed on the Messiah. It will be the Spirit of wisdom, the Spirit of might, the Spirit of understanding, the Spirit of the fear of the Lord. It lists 7 spirits there. I may have to give you the reference later. And as a matter of fact, my wonderful wife is here helping me. No, it's not there either, baby. You're gonna. She is wanting to become my co-host, but she's here in the room with me as we're broadcasting. Anyway, there are 7 spirits listed there, and it may be. I'm sorry, I can't pull it off in my memory right this moment. But anyway, we'll try to let you know what that is before the end of the program today. But that's the 7 spirits. That's the closest I've been able to get to the 7 spirits of God as they are listed there in Revelation chapter 4, verse 5. It says that the Lamb, as it has been slain, had 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God. And that's the closest I have been able to get to understanding what that actually means. So, Debbie, hope that helps just a little bit. I know it's there in the book of Isaiah. It could be in it may be in Isaiah chapter 11. I can't pull it out right this moment, but nevertheless, we'll get it for you before it's over. Let's go now again on Facebook. And by the way, if you want to be on the program, dial 877-END-TIME, 877-363-8463. Adam wants to know, will Armageddon be between the Lord and the wicked man? Well, yes, it will start out between Israel and the international community, the United Nations. The UN is going to decree that Israel has to withdraw from East Jerusalem and turn it over to the Palestinians as their capital. However, the UN will think it's its idea, but Zechariah chapter 14, verse 2 says, I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle. So God said, I'm going to gather them in. They're going to think it's their idea, but all the time it's God pulling them down, because that's where he's going to execute judgment against the nations that have come to fight against the nation of Israel. So the Battle of Armageddon will be between the international community and Israel, but it will really be between Jesus Christ and the Antichrist. And it's at Armageddon that the Antichrist will be permanently defeated. He and his religious partner, the false prophet, they will both be cast alive into the lake of fire. That's Revelation chapter 19, verse 20. And that's when we will crown Jesus Christ as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So, Adam, hope that helps. And by the way, we do have some open lines right now. That's sort of a rarity these days. But if you'd like to jump on, the number to call, 877-END-TIME, 877-363-8463. While you're dialing, let me go back to this article and let me give you the flavor of what Mr. Robomovich is saying when he is contending we are in World War III right now. He says in his article, in the Middle East, we are fighting 4 terror organizations. People think we're fighting ISIS and Al-Qaeda, but we're also fighting Iran, which is the number 1 terror organization today. Now, this is something people don't realize. Iran sponsors Hezbollah, which is the bitter enemy of Israel. Iran sponsors Hamas, which is the bitter enemy of Israel. Iran loves to say that Israel will not exist 30 years from right now. They fired missiles. They tested missiles, and on the side they engraved in Hebrew, Israel will be wiped off the map. Sometimes they have rallies, and they will chant, death to America, death to Israel. They call America the big Satan. They call Israel the little Satan. And they do it. We're not talking about fringe people. We're talking about some of the very highest officials do this. So Iran is the number one terrorist organization in the world today. That's the reason the deal that President Obama negotiated with Iran is such a horrible mistake, because it took all of the economic sanctions off of them, and now they're producing oil like crazy. Money is rolling in. All the nations of the world are trading with them, and it's giving them resources to really upset the world. And that's the reason Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Jordan, Egypt, they're all moving towards the United States, because they know Iran fully intends to establish a caliphate that would control the entire Middle East. And so consequently, because Iran is Shia Muslim and they're all Sunni Muslim, they hate each other, they are moving toward Israel and the United States in order to get military cover so that they will not be brought under the domination of Iran. That's part of what is going on right now. Okay, well, we're going to get back to the phones now, and Anna is calling from Florida. Hello, Anna.
Hi, Brother Baxter. I just was reading yesterday Matthew 24 about when Jesus is coming back. And verse 28, I don't know, it was just like magnified to me. It says, well, I'll go to 27. As the lightning that comes from the east is visible even in the west, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. And I thought it was so interesting. 28, he just throws that out of the blue, right? He says, wherever there is a carcass, there the vultures will gather. And we know that's the language of Armageddon. So that's when he's coming back, which you've taught us. And I don't know, that verse was magnified to me a lot yesterday.
Well, of course, I remember when I was taught pre-trib, and I was taught that by wonderful parents, and all of my ministry associates, they all taught that. And so I assumed it was true. Then I started studying. And these were the passages that you're referring to here. The Great Tribulation starts in verse 15, when you see the abomination of desolation. Then there will be great tribulation such as never been before, nor ever again shall be. And then it says, now, if they tell you he's in the desert, don't go forth. If they tell you he's in the secret chambers, don't believe it. Why? Because the lightning comes from the east, the west. So shall it come the Son of Man be. Now, I've heard that all my life, the pre-trib rapture, but it specifically talks about the people who've just been through the Great Tribulation. And then it goes right on to say, verse 29, immediately after the tribulation, that's when he will send his angels together as elect. So thank you for that, Anna. And, the Word of God has got to be true. The Bible says, let God be true. Let every man be a liar. So I've got to let you go.
You can now become a magazine subscriber for life. You will receive first-class benefits that will include a lifetime membership to End Time Magazine, as well as an unlimited access to the digital version of the magazine. You will also receive 20% off of all future orders at endtime.com. Join today by calling 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. Or go to endtime.com.
Move Mountains with Irvin Baxter, the new book by Irvin's grandson, provides 30 days of devotion that will enhance your connection to God and others. Authentic illustrations from early morning devotions at End Time will help you identify areas in your life where you can be more intentional and ultimately discover your purpose. Commit to taking this 30-day journey and experience real life change. Pre-order for only $25.99 at endtime.com/move and get free bonus items worth over $100. Go to endtime.com/move today.
You're listening to End of the Age Today with Irvin Baxter. Irvin is joining us from the road, and he's taking your phone calls and your questions. So if you'd like to talk to Irvin today, 1-877-END-TIME. That's 1-877-363-8463. Irvin.
I promised someone earlier that I would give them the spirit and the location of the passage in Isaiah. It's Isaiah chapter 11, verse 2. Scriptures that you've used all your life, all of a sudden you draw a blank. But anyway, I guess I can use my age. I don't like to do that because I'm still very young. But anyway, it momentarily slipped me where it is. It's Isaiah chapter 11, verse 2. Here's what it says. And the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, prophesying about the Messiah. The Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge, and of the fear of the Lord. So it lists there 7 spirits. I do not know whether that's exactly the spirits of God or not referred to in the 7 eyes of the Lamb. We know the Lamb is Jesus Christ, as it had been slain. And all this is symbolic. We know when we see Jesus, he won't have a gash in his throat. We know that he won't have 7 horns and 7 eyes. We know that will not. That's all symbolism. But nevertheless, the 7 eyes, it says there are the 7 spirits of God. And there are quite a number of spirits of God mentioned throughout the Bible. There's a spirit of faith. There's some other spirits that are listed, but nevertheless, that's the closest I have been able to come to identifying from Scripture what the 7 spirits of God might in fact be. So the best I can do, I hope it helps a little bit. Let's go now.
Hello, Irvin, are you there?
I am here. Thank you.
Okay, you said let's go now, and we didn't hear anything after that. So did you bring somebody on?
I meant to say Diane from New Mexico.
All right, let's go to Diane. You're on the air with Irvin.
Pastor Baxter, I'm just want to talk really fast. And every time I get to talk to you, I know you have short time. I wish I could sit down with you and just have coffee one day and get all these questions answered. But I just have to do it on the phone when I can. So I have a what if. I am a watchman. I consider myself that God has given that to my heart, a spirit of being a watchman. And one of the things is, and if you'll just address this, what if North Korea is so bold and boastful because Iran is supporting North Korea quietly with nobody knowing, and North Korea bombs us. Of course, we bomb them back. In the meantime, Iran is going to attack Israel, and Russia, being friends with Iran, comes at us as well, and we're trying to protect Israel. And then China gets involved because we know it's a communist state, and that is the World War III that we're all waiting for. And it does originate from the Euphrates River if you think that Iran is really the one that's propagating everything.
Well, Iran and North Korea are very close allies. I read one article that when North Korea was doing its nuclear test, that some of the top scientists from Iran were in North Korea that day observing, and that they have shared technology. Iran has some very good intercontinental ballistic missile technology, and they have shared their missile technology with North Korea. And some people think North Korea is prepared to share its nuclear technology with Iran, which means that once the 10-year agreement that President Obama struck with Iran, once that is up, and Iran is supposedly free to do what she wants to do, then North Korea could very rapidly equip Iran to have a nuclear weapon. So I absolutely believe it's a strong possibility that in fact is happening. Okay, well, thank you very much, Diana. Appreciate the call. Let's go now to Louise. Louise is coming to us as a Facebook viewer, but she has a very relevant question. It says, can the events of September the 23rd be in sync with Revelation 12, 1 through 2? Well, we had this question many times on this program over the last few months, and I've told everyone repeatedly, it's not going to happen. Nothing is going to happen because the constellations, the stars, do not line up with Revelation chapter 12. Revelation chapter 12, the woman with the 12 stars about her head is the nation of Israel. The 12 stars represent the 12 tribes of Israel. The same symbolism was used in Joseph's dream way back in the book of Genesis. He saw the sun, the moon, the 12 stars back then. And so the same thing is used for Israel today. And that, the Bible says there in Revelation 12, that the woman was travailing to bring forth a man-child. And the man-child was born, and Satan stood to devour the man-child as soon as he was born, but he missed. and the man-child was caught up to God and to his throne. That's simply what happened when Jesus was born. Herod the Great tried to kill him, but he was not able to because every time he tried, God intervened. And then it skips 2,000 years there in Revelation chapter 12, and it goes to the times just ahead when there's going to be a war in heaven and Satan will try to overthrow God one more time. When he does that, he's going to be then confined to the earth from then on, no more to appear in heaven. And that's what launches the final 3.5 years called the Great Tribulation. In verse 12 of chapter 12, it says, "Woe be to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for Satan comes down to you having great wrath, knowing that he hath but a short time." A huge error has been, we've painted the Great Tribulation as the wrath of God, but the Bible teaches it's the wrath of Satan. Revelation 12:12. Woe be to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for Satan comes down to you, having great wrath, knowing that he hath but a short time. He knows he's only got 3.5 years left. It goes on to say in verse 14, "And he made war against the woman with the 12 stars, Israel, for time, times, and half a time." So it's very clear that that war in heaven launches the final 3.5 years called the Great Tribulation. And that war in heaven will happen 3.5 years after the peace agreement is signed that we've been talking about here today. So hope that's helpful to you, Louise. The people who were teaching that September the 23rd was related to Revelation 12, they may well have been sincere, but they were in error, and we told you that in advance. It was not going to happen. It's very much like the 4 blood moons. Nothing happened there. Now, why do these mistakes happen? Because they're based on human theory and speculation, not on Scripture. If you know that the Scriptures say something, you can take it to the bank. For example, there's going to be a temple built on the Temple Mount. It says it in Revelation 11, verse 1 and 2, and it says it in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 and 4. The Bible says the Antichrist will stand in the temple of God, claiming to be God. You can't stand or sit in a temple if there's no temple to sit in. John was told in Revelation 11, 1 through 2, "Arise and measure the temple." You can't measure a temple if there's no temple to measure. And then it goes on to say, don't measure the outer court. It's going to be trodden down to Gentiles for 42 months. The exact time of the Great Tribulation, 3.5 years. So the Scriptures always add up. But when we base things that we believe on theories, and especially when you get into studying the stars and all those things, can God make a sign in the sky? Of course he can. We had the star that led the wise men to Jesus 2,000 years ago. But there's a very fine line between that and moving into astrology and trying to interpret the prophecies of the Bible in light of the stars instead of understanding the stars in light of the prophecies. Anyway, just wanted to get that in because it is so vital, so important. I will get right back to the Scriptures now and also to your calls. Let's go now to Dennis calling from Arkansas. Hello, Dennis. Dennis,
Hello?
Are you with me?
Hello?
Yeah, you're on the air, Dennis.
Yes, I am. My question is to you is that, you know the thing that's going on here in the United States with Trump, the things about, Black People Matter, all the words, people protesting, telling the government get their health insurance back. And my question to you, what do the Bible talk about what's going to happen to the United States and when Jesus take over the government and become and have the new earth? What would the new earth be like? What do the Bible talk about that?
Well, Dennis, you've asked me a very big question. I won't be able to give you a complete answer, but let me tell you very briefly. We have a DVD called America's God-Given Destiny. And that's about an hour or so that a person can get and go in depth. But I'm going to give you the brief version. The Bible teaches that the United States will not be a part of the world government of the Antichrist. But it does teach that we will defend Israel against the Antichrist during the final 3.5 years. That's in Revelation chapter 12, verse 13 and 14. It says that when the when the dragon Satan persecutes the woman Israel, there will be given to the woman 2 wings of a great eagle that she might fly into her place. Look on the back of your dollar bill. You'll see an eagle. That's the official symbol of the United States of America. The bear is Russia. The lion is Great Britain. All of those animal symbols are used in the Scripture to symbolize the nations that will be on the earth at the time of the second coming. So from these prophecies, and I'm giving you a very shallow answer because it takes about an hour's lesson on each of these points. For example, the lesson we have on the United States of the Bible, there's a DVD like that, and also I touch on it again in America's God-Given Destiny. So if you want to get a real in-depth study, just get a hold of America's God-Given Destiny. That'll help you quickly. But anyway, just to answer you briefly, we're not going to be a part of the Antichrist system. We're going to defend Israel against the Antichrist, all during the 3.5 years known as the Great Tribulation. Okay, Dennis?
Okay, Irvin?
Yes, hope that helps.
It sure did.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go now to David, calling from right here in Texas. David, hit me quick.
Yeah, Irving, we're talking about the peace treaty and all that, so that makes this verse more prophetic and relevant. Let's talk about the verse where it says there will be shouting, yelling, peace, 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 but there will be no peace, for when they think there's going to be peace, sudden destruction shall come upon them. Is that not this time?
Yes, absolutely it is. The Bible teaches us that they will say peace, peace, and it will probably happen when they sign this peace agreement. Whoever ends up getting the peace agreement done will say peace, peace, but instead, very shortly, they will be plunged into the Great Tribulation, which will then culminate with the final battle called the Battle of Armageddon. So the Scripture says they'll say peace, peace, but there is no peace. That is where we are. That's what's getting ready to happen. David, sorry to have to put you on such a short leash, but we're out of time. Appreciate you calling. If you have more to talk about, please call back tomorrow. Anyway, right now, ladies and gentlemen, I've got to wrap up the program because we are totally out of time. One more time, 2 things. If you'd like to go to Israel with Judy and I, pick up the phone and call us right now, 800-END-TIME. Ask about the tour, and they'll be glad to talk to you and tell you all the details about it. Also, if you want to help us prepare for the final 7 years that could be triggered yet this year, we have an urgent software project. We have $75,000 to go. If you want to help, please do. Now, you don't have to be 500. It could be 100, 50, 200, 500, 5,000. It doesn't matter. Whatever you feel like God wants you to do, just give us a call. And I'm going to call 800-END-TIME or endtime.com.
End of the Age is a production of End Time Ministries. This broadcast will be available on our website, endtime.com, in the archives section. On our website, you'll also find more information about how current events are fulfilling Bible prophecy. To reach our operators, call 1-800-END-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. End Time Ministries is partner supported. We would like to say thank you to our partners who made this broadcast possible. To do what Matthew 24:14 said, to reach the world with the gospel of the kingdom.